Ash. It was so easy. Falling in love had, after all, been so easy. Rich had never been convinced that he had the knack for loving. Shagging, yeah, positively expert. But loving? He'd had a sneaky suspicion that falling in love was something that happened only to people in movies or to the weak-minded. Or maybe he'd been born without the necessary gene that enabled a healthy, happy, two-way loving thing, because he used to find it impossible to imagine wanting to share everything from your sock drawer to your life. His parents were still together, yeah, but they seemed to exist side by side, in a state of bored tolerance, rather than in perpetual bliss. His mother filled her time with concerns about neighbours' hysterectomies, and his father's chief concern was his golf handicap. Rich doubted they had ever been young and in love. It wasn't exactly inspiring. When his mates said they'd found a girl they wanted to marry, he'd assumed that the desire was one largely driven by practicalities. Clearly, some people liked the company or the laundry service or the security of being a double-income family. It wasn't that he wanted to be callous. In fact, the reverse was true. He'd always wanted to believe that there was something chemical, no, something magical that dictated with whom you spent your life. He always wanted to believe that there was a soulmate out there somewhere. But he'd given the mysterious falling in love dozens of opportunities and 33 years to take hold. It never had. Until Tash. They'd been right. All those people that used to say stuff like, "You know when you know." Those starry-eyed blokes who stuttered their way through speeches at wedding receptions, earnestly trying to communicate their passion and their willingness to subdue themselves to a bigger force than their reason. They'd been right. Falling in love did make everything lucid, bright and simple. And yet, at the same time, it was the most mysterious, exotic, and different experience of Rich's life. An irresistible contradiction. He loved her, and she loved him. They were lovers. Rich wondered how many people across, say, London, no, make it bigger than that, say Britain. How many people were at this precise second telling one another they loved each other? And how many of them meant it as much as he did? Because he did mean it. He meant it all the time, not just when they were having sex. He loved her smile. It was broad and frequent. She had fat lips. Clearly, they were blowjob lips, which was an advantage. But he also admired them because they were happy lips. He loved her laugh. It was low and throaty like a smoker's laugh, even though she didn't smoke. He loved her thoughts and how frequently she openly expressed them, and how she insisted on bringing everything back to a personal level. He used to hate the type of person who, during a really sensible discussion of whether troops ought to be deployed to some far-off flung place, would pipe up to say, "Well, all I know is it's wrong because my next-door neighbour is in the army and he may see action." That sort of argument used to irritate his intellectual mind. But now, he realised that everything was personal at some level. Everything was simply about who you cared for. Tash was right. She was also right to want to drink fair trade coffee and use Body Shop products. All that girly stuff was good. He loved her body. He loved the smell of her hair. He was fascinated by the things that made her angry and thrilled by the things in which she delighted. He loved the vulnerable curve in the nape of her neck and the way she shivered when he kissed her there. He loved making her come. Tash finished cleaning her teeth. She put her toothbrush back in the cup and smiled at her reflection. That was her toothbrush in a cup in Rich's flat. Although they'd only been seeing each other for just shy of 2 months, she had a toothbrush in his flat, and that felt good. Unlike Rich, Tash had never wondered if she'd find true love. She'd expected to. Her parents had been happily married for 40 years. Even now, she might walk into the